An entitled tourist lunged forward and grabbed a royal guard's sword, thinking it would make a great photo. What happened next left him screaming, both from pain and humiliation. But before we continue, let us know in the comments, where are you watching from today? And if you appreciate stories about honor and self-restraint, be sure to subscribe so you never miss one. In the midst of a crisp autumn day in London, where the ancient stones of Buckingham Palace whispered secrets of centuries past, a scene unfolded that would soon capture the attention of the world. Standing resolute amid the hustle and bustle of visitors, Thomas Reed, a veteran royal guard with a legacy of unyielding discipline, maintained his calm vigil near the grand entrance. Every day Thomas donned his meticulously pressed uniform and polished boots, a living testament to the traditions and sacrifices that had defined generations before him. The ceremonial sword at his side was more than a mere instrument. It was an emblem of honor, duty, and the unwavering commitment to protect the legacy of the crown. As tourists meandered around the palace grounds, their voices a medley of awe and excitement, Thomas's calm presence stood in stark contrast to the ever-changing tides of modernity. He embodied a timeless dignity, his silent gaze a reminder that true strength often resides in restraint. Meanwhile, beyond these hallowed grounds, a new era had given rise to those who sought to capture attention through spectacle rather than substance, a phenomenon that would soon clash with the sanctity of tradition in a dramatic and unforgettable way. The stage was set for a confrontation where impulse met legacy, and the cost of disrespect would be measured in more than just fleeting social media clout. The grand architecture of Buckingham Palace served as an imposing backdrop to the unfolding drama, its regal facade adorned with intricate carvings and centuries-old stones that echoed the history of a nation built on resilience and honor. Within this storied setting, Thomas Reed's daily routine assumed a profound significance. For over a decade, he had been the silent guardian of the palace's time-honored rituals, a custodian of dignity and tradition. Each morning, as the first light of dawn spread across London, Thomas arrived at his post with unwavering determination, his every step a tribute to those who had stood before him. His uniform, always immaculate, was more than just attire. It was a symbol of commitment and sacrifice. The ceremonial sword he carried, its hilt worn smooth by the passage of time, embodied the legacy of valor and self-discipline passed down through generations. As the palace grounds buzzed with the chatter of visitors from around the globe, families, history enthusiasts, and curious onlookers gathered with reverence. Children's eyes sparkled with wonder as parents recounted tales of bravery and sacrifice, weaving together the past and the present. In the serene courtyard, the majestic gardens and the storied walls of the palace merged with the modern world, creating a living tapestry of tradition interlaced with the fleeting moments of everyday life. Every glance cast toward Thomas was imbued with respect, a silent acknowledgement of the legacy he carried. Yet beneath the calm exterior of this bastion of history, the winds of change were stirring, heralding the arrival of a force that would soon challenge the very essence of these time-honored values. In stark contrast to the solemn decorum embodied by Thomas Reed, a new figure emerged, a man whose very presence radiated modern bravado and defiance. Jack Hartley, a wealthy American influencer known for courting controversy, strode onto the palace grounds with an air of entitlement that clashed violently with the centuries-old traditions surrounding him. Dressed in designer attire and armed with the latest smartphone, Jack navigated the marble walkways as if they were a stage set solely for his personal performance. His entourage, a group of sycophants eager for the next viral moment, trailed behind him like a manufactured echo of approval. Every step Jack took was calculated for maximum impact, his eyes scanning the ancient surroundings, not with reverence, but with the detached clinical curiosity of someone searching for the next sensational opportunity. To him, the grandeur of Buckingham Palace, and the disciplined presence of Thomas Reed were simply props in a live spectacle, waiting to be exploited for digital clout. With a charismatic smile masking a hint of insecurity, Jack exuded the type of arrogance that comes from a constant need for validation, a desperate attempt to fill an inner void with transient applause from a virtual audience. His arrival was a jarring note in the symphony of order and tradition, and as he drew closer to Thomas, his casual remarks and dismissive glances signaled a challenge to the sacred rituals that had long commanded respect. Jack's irreverence was not born of malice, but of a shallow belief that the old ways had little place in an era ruled by the immediacy of social media, yet his presence promised to disrupt the delicate balance between the dignified past and the impulsive present, setting the stage for a confrontation that would soon force everyone to reckon with the true meaning of honor. As the soft murmur of the crowd swelled into a tapestry of curious whispers, Jack Hartley began to let his mischief spill forth in a series of deliberate provocations. With a mischievous glint in his eye, he initiated his assault on tradition by mimicking the Royal Guard's precise march with exaggerated, almost comical movements. He flailed his arms in a parody of the disciplined choreography, laughing loudly and drawing the attention of both his entourage and the onlookers. "Look at this," he declared, his tone a mix of mock admiration and derision as he recorded the spectacle on his phone. The initial amusement of the crowd soon gave way to discomfort as the sanctity of the moment was compromised by his irreverent antics. Thomas Reed, standing tall and unwavering in his duty, maintained a stoic silence. His calm, measured gaze held no hint of retaliation, only the quiet power of steadfast commitment. Yet as Jack's performance escalated, his voice rose in volume and mockery, deliberately challenging the decorum that Thomas embodied. "Is that all you've got?" he jeered, his words dripping with sarcasm and aimed not just at the guard, but at the institution of honor itself. The ripple of laughter that initially greeted his act gradually diminished, replaced by murmurs of disapproval and exchanged glances among the onlookers. Even the palace staff, accustomed to the dignified rhythm of their surroundings, cast wary looks in his direction. In that charged moment, every mocking gesture and every over-the-top movement from Jack served as a pointed reminder that the age-old values of respect and discipline were under siege by the transient allure of modern vanity. The crowd's shifting mood, from amusement to unease, heralded the coming storm, a collision of old-world dignity and the reckless impulses of a man intoxicated by his own celebrity. The playful mockery soon spiraled into an audacious display of defiance as Jack Hartley escalated his provocations to dangerous new heights. What began as a series of theatrical gestures transformed into a deliberate challenge, a challenge meant to test the limits of decorum and to provoke a reaction from the stoic guardian. Jack's voice grew louder, his words bolder, as he ventured ever closer to Thomas Reed. With each exaggerated step, his actions sent a clear message. No tradition was too sacred to be ridiculed. "This is nothing more than a parade," he shouted, his tone laced with contempt, dismissing the solemn rituals as outdated relics, unworthy of respect. The gathered crowd, once entertained by his antics, now felt a growing sense of disquiet. Parents pulled their children closer, their expressions turning from curiosity to concern, while seasoned visitors exchanged uneasy glances. The atmosphere, once light with the thrill of spectacle, now thickened with the tension of impending confrontation. Thomas, unmoved by the escalating provocation, continued to stand in his appointed post, his eyes fixed ahead, as if to challenge the very notion of disrespect. Yet, as Jack's audacity mounted, it became increasingly clear that his actions were no longer harmless fun. They were a direct affront to the centuries-old customs that had long commanded admiration and reverence. The once jovial banter had given way to an atmosphere charged with the silent understanding that a line had been crossed, a line that separated playful irreverence from outright desecration of a cherished legacy. In that crucible of rising tension, the stage was being set for a moment that would forever alter the delicate balance between the old and the new. Then, in a heartbeat that seemed to suspend time, the simmering tension exploded into a moment of irreversible breach. With no warning, Jack Hartley's reckless ambition culminated in a single, fateful act. In one swift, impulsive motion, he lunged forward and seized the hilt of Thomas Reed's ceremonial sword, a sacred relic that had witnessed generations of honor and sacrifice. The collective gasp of the crowd was instantaneous, the sound of disbelief echoing off the ancient stones as onlookers stood frozen in shock. For a few agonizing seconds, time appeared to slow, each heartbeat punctuating the gravity of the transgression. The sword, once a symbol of unwavering duty, was now tainted by the impulsive act of a man seeking a viral moment at any cost. Jack's confident facade crumbled as his eyes widened in realization, the thrill of his stunt replaced by the stark horror of his own recklessness. In the charged silence that followed, Thomas's authoritative voice cut through the stillness with both firmness and compassion. "Stand back," he commanded, his tone resonating with the quiet power of generations past. His words were not laced with anger, but with the stern clarity of someone whose life had been devoted to upholding values far greater than any fleeting moment of personal gain. As security personnel moved in swiftly to restrain Jack, the atmosphere turned from one of incredulous amusement to sober reflection. Every face in the crowd bore the unmistakable mark of recognition. This was no longer a mere spectacle for social media, but a profound breach of tradition. In that frozen moment, as Jack's outstretched hand still clutched the stolen hilt, the sacred divide between irreverence and respect was irrevocably drawn. In the wake of the shocking breach, Thomas Reed's response emerged with the quiet dignity that had defined him throughout his service. Without haste, he moved to reclaim the sanctity of his post, his every step deliberate and measured. With the fluid precision of a man who had long mastered the art of restraint, he retrieved his ceremonial sword and repositioned it with a calm that belied the chaos moments before. Locking eyes with Jack, whose initial bravado had now dissolved into palpable regret, Thomas spoke in a tone both gentle and resolute. "This sword is not a trinket for amusement, nor a tool for spectacle. It represents the lives, the struggles, and the sacrifices of those who came before me," he declared, each word imbued with the weight of history and a quiet admonition. His measured cadence resonated across the hushed courtyard, a powerful reminder that true strength is defined not by impulsive reaction, but by the steadfast adherence to principle. There was no venom in his voice, only the clear conviction of a man whose duty transcended personal grievance. As his words sank into the silence, the gathered crowd felt an almost tangible shift, a collective understanding that honor was not something to be trivialized for the sake of fleeting digital fame. Thomas continued, his voice unwavering as he imparted the timeless lesson. "In this realm, where every gesture and every symbol speaks to a legacy of sacrifice, we owe respect to what these symbols represent." The simple yet profound message was carried on the still air, a beacon of integrity amid the tumult. In that defining moment, the power of restraint shone brighter than any outburst of anger, etching a lesson in the hearts of everyone present, a lesson that the enduring dignity of tradition will always prevail over the impulsive clamor of modern vanity. In the moments that followed, the weight of consequence descended upon Jack Hartley with unyielding force. The security team, having swiftly intervened, escorted him away from the scene, leaving behind an atmosphere heavy with disapproval and introspection. The confident swagger that had so recently defined him was replaced by a dawning expression of vulnerability and regret. His smartphone, once a tool for curating a glamorous online persona, now captured the stark reality of his public collapse. Social media erupted in real time, not with praise for his daring, but with a torrent of criticism and condemnation. Posts, comments, and hashtags poured in from every corner of the digital landscape, each message underscoring the principle that the symbols of honor are not for personal amusement. In cafes, boardrooms, and homes, discussions turned to the lessons of the day, a modern cautionary tale that reverberated far beyond the palace grounds. For many, Jack's fall was a vivid reminder that the pursuit of fleeting internet fame comes at a cost, and that the sanctity of tradition demands a level of respect that cannot be overridden by impulsive bravado. Even among his own entourage, the fallout was evident. Their earlier laughter gave way to uneasy silence as the magnitude of the moment settled in. The incident, captured from multiple angles and shared countless times, evolved into a parable of modern recklessness versus timeless honor. In every retelling, the focus remained on the dignified composure of Thomas Reed and the inevitable collapse of a man who had underestimated the value of respect. What began as a moment of misguided daring transformed into an enduring reminder that no amount of digital validation can justify the desecration of a legacy built on generations of sacrifice and discipline. In the days that followed, the incident rippled far beyond the marble corridors of Buckingham Palace, igniting a national conversation about the intersection of tradition and modernity. Footage of the confrontation spread like wildfire across digital platforms, and what might have been dismissed as a trivial viral moment instead became a cultural touchstone. The story was dissected and debated in living rooms, classrooms, and boardrooms alike, where historians, educators, and community leaders reflected on the significance of upholding values that have withstood the test of time. Parents found in the tale a potent lesson for their children, an illustration of why respect for history and tradition is not merely ceremonial, but essential for the continuity of shared cultural identity. Educators wove the narrative into lessons about civic duty and the responsibilities of citizenship, emphasizing that the symbols which adorn our public spaces are imbued with meaning far deeper than their physical form. Veterans and active service members who have long carried the burden of honor and sacrifice expressed their pride in Thomas Reed's unyielding demeanor. His calm, measured response resonated as a powerful affirmation of the timeless principles of discipline and self-restraint. Media outlets, too, picked up the story, framing it not as a scandal of modern impulsiveness, but as a reminder that in an age dominated by instant gratification, the enduring strength of tradition remains indispensable. Editorials and opinion pieces across the nation praised the quiet power of dignity in the face of derision, and soon, what began as an isolated incident had sparked a broader cultural movement. A renewed commitment to values of honor, respect, and measured action took root in public discourse, transforming the event into a modern parable that would guide future generations in navigating the delicate balance between heritage and the transient allure of digital fame. As dawn broke on a new day, the memory of the tumultuous events at Buckingham Palace lingered like a gentle echo, a reminder of a moment when tradition triumphed over impulsive modernity. Thomas Reed, the ever-watchful guardian of honor, resumed his post with the quiet dignity that had defined his years of service. The palace grounds, bathed in the soft glow of early morning light, seemed imbued with a renewed reverence. Visitors, once prone to careless banter, now moved with a measured respect, their steps soft as they approached the historic edifice. For Thomas, the day's dramatic episode was not a personal victory, but a reaffirmation of the values he had upheld since his first day on duty. Every carefully executed movement, every measured gesture, was a tribute to the legacy of those who had come before him. The incident had woven itself into the cultural fabric, a modern fable that underscored the enduring truth that true strength lies not in reckless bravado, but in the quiet courage of restraint. Communities across the nation reflected on the lesson imparted that day, a call to cherish and protect the symbols of our past, even in an era dominated by transient digital accolades. As Thomas continued his silent vigil, his unwavering presence became a beacon for all who sought to understand that while the world may change, the timeless principles of honor, dignity, and respect remain eternal. In the serene light of a new morning, the legacy of that fateful encounter endured, a lasting testament to the power of self-restraint and the enduring strength of tradition in an ever-evolving world.